Hello there, what is going on everyone? Today we are going to be taking a look at the title Eclipse for the Superstar Destroyer for Star Wars Armada, and we're trying to put a fleet together to take advantage of this title. This is going to be a list building video. We'll use Ryan Kingston's fleet builder. We'll kind of walk through some of the steps, but I want to talk you through the thought process of this card a little bit and have a little fun with doing some outside of the box fleet building and having a little an interesting session and a little back and forth. And I also want to get your feedback on what you think and what you might do differently. I think this is a difficult title to really work into a competitive list, and so it's probably best to approach it from a casual and fun standpoint, while also trying to at least build a list that can work and can at least hold its own without completely giving the game away. And that's what we're going to try to do today with this particular title. Now, this the inspiration for this video and for running a list with the Eclipse title was due to the amazing model that I recently have painted up, and I'll be running soon, so you can check out, and I'll have a link to more on the Eclipse model later at the end of the video. You can check that out, but it's going to be a real fun one. Also, if you guys like what you see, if if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment on this or one of my other videos. That's going to enter you to win one of the 12 Days of Life Day giveaways that we're going to be doing in December. 12 times throughout December, we're going to be doing giveaways. If you want to have a chance to enter to win any of that stuff, just leave a comment and make sure you're subscribed. It's as simple as that. So let's talk about the Eclipse title a little bit. It says, when an enemy ship overlaps you, the enemy ship suffers a face-up damage card instead of a face-down damage card. So this is it's just a way to punish people that bump you. Can be pretty nasty. Sometimes people will definitely try to bump you. It's sort of like an Imperial version of Garel's Honor in a certain way. It just works a little differently, and it doesn't require you to do a whole lot of special stuff, but it does require that your opponent make a mistake. And that's, I think, the biggest problem with this card is that it's not super strong because a skilled opponent will make sure that it never does anything. And that's kind of what you have to keep in mind when you're putting an Eclipse Superstar Destroyer together, is that if you're going to make your Superstar Destroyer the Eclipse, not only are you using a title that may never do anything, you're also using a title that precludes you from any of the other good titles, like Ravager, for example. You're not going to be able to use that. And that is certainly one of the big drawbacks, is that there's other titles that are better. There's other titles that I prefer to use, but it's not all doom and gloom for the Eclipse title. I think there are definitely places where you can make it work, and things that you can take advantage of in this title, and that granted, it might not work, but also it doesn't require you build around it specifically. There are ways that you can build towards it, and there's objectives you can take, and there's commanders that can do very specific things to build towards making it work, but I don't recommend that, and that's not what we're going to do today for a competitive event or for a tournament or a social gathering or whatever. You're trying to show up and you want to bring an Eclipse with you. You don't have to make it super competitive, but you also don't have to build around it completely. And my approach in this build is going to be more or less, let's have an Eclipse that, if it happens to work, great. And if it didn't happen to work, not a huge deal. It's still only 3 points. And, we're going to try something different. Sometimes it's fun to try things that are suboptimal just for the sake of doing something you don't normally do, especially in a game like Armada that's no longer in print, no longer being officially supported. It's nice to look at the wealth of cards and ship varieties and things that are out there and do something that is outside of your comfort zone, and that's what we're going to do today. Also, if you are going to an event or a casual event, if you're looking for great ways to transport your miniatures, if you've ever checked out Battle Foam, if you're ever looking at Magnarax or the different foam or the transport cases or the different packs that they have over at Battle Foam, definitely check out Battle Foam, and you can save 15% off of your purchase by using code Crabbok VIP. I'm going to have a link for that in the video description below with a reminder, but definitely head over to Battlefoam, use code Crabbok VIP. That's going to save you 15%, and you can get your holiday orders done in time for all of your holiday gifts, whether they be gifts for you or for someone else. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our list builder, and we're going to be using Ryan Kingston's list builder. We're going to create a new Imperial fleet, and we're going to start off with a Super Star Destroyer. Now, one of the things about this, since I'm not going to go with Ravager, and I'm not going to do a min-maxed kind of Super Star Destroyer that's really, really trying to completely kill you in one shot, you know, which is already hard to do, especially if you face Separatists that are going to just be like, oh, half your dice pool is gone before you even get started. Really, really hurts the SSD. I want to go with a little bit more of a balanced, all-comers SSD for a fun match that is going to look beautiful. And that's part of the goal here, is you want something that's going to look pretty and also something that your opponent's not going to feel too terrified to face. But hopefully it can do a little bit of a lot of things. So with that being said, I'm going to go with the Star Dreadnought Command prototype. It's a little bit cheaper, and it gives you a little bit more build options while being a little bit less deadly. But that's okay. It's got less dice, but you know, we're saving 30 points by going with this variant. You want to change it up and go with the Star Dreadnought Assault prototype, be my guest. Or if you're playing a much bigger game, go with the Executor 1 or Executor 2. And I really do think that's probably where the Eclipse shines, is in those bigger games. I think you have a lot higher chance of somebody bumping you, overlapping you in a 1,000-point game, in a 1,200-point game, in something massively huge, right? 800 points or higher. I think you're definitely going to have a more crowded Starfield. You're going to have a more crowded map. And your chances of actually making the Eclipse title work are a lot better for those larger games. However, we're sticking with 400 points for this video. So we're going to start with the Star Dreadnought Command prototype. For our commander, we are going to go with Gergerod. Granted, I said go out of your comfort zone. I'm not going too far out of my comfort zone. There's a couple of hallmarks that I'm going to run here. I'm going to run 3 officers on this guy. I'm going to run Admiral Ozzel, and I'm going to run a damage control officer, if I can find it in here. It's in here somewhere. Damage control officer. I wanted the thing to stay alive. Yeah, frankly, it's going to be my only big, expensive ship, which means it's going to get most of the shots thrown at it. I don't want those silly little crit effects doing too many crazy things to me. Damage control officer is a really good option for a Super Star Destroyer. And we're going to put Emperor Palpatine on here. Now, Emperor Palpatine isn't absolutely critical. He's not somebody that super has to be on here. He is, there we go. He's a nice luxury, and there's a reason we're going to put him on here. I don't put him on every SSD build, especially if it's just the SSD that's the one big shooting ship, because people are just like, sure, I'll let you shoot me first, and then I'll keep shooting you, and I'll just keep spending whatever tokens I had left over, and it's, you know, no big deal. You don't really get to take advantage of the tokens that are spent via a Palpatine shot under some circumstances. We're going to see if we can make this one line up and work, and it's going to be a little bit of a gamble. It definitely is. We are not going to run too many other upgrades. I'm going to run high-capacity ion turbines. People usually don't hang out in our front arc, but if this makes basically my whole front half a little bit more crazy, a little bit more, you know. And we're going to run the Eclipse title itself. I had originally had high-capacity ion turbines on here, and also then XI7s for turbo lasers. You certainly can do that. I ended up dropping XI7s to make some room for some things, but you have a lot of options with this as the start of the build. It's a little bit of a lot of things. I'm not using a gunnery team. I'm not going to be locked into concentrate fire every turn, but we may do that a decent amount. It's not 100%. So this is kind of where I settled for right now. I think you could easily drop out ion turbines for maybe something else. You could put quad battery turrets in there. It's a point cheaper. Still gets you a blue die if they're going faster. Also a good option. We'll leave that, we'll leave it at that for right now. A couple of different options for that. But let's go on. We're also going to have a Gazanti in here. We're going to do a Gazanti class cruisers, and we're going to add Darth Vader in here. This is going to give our SSD plenty of rerolls. We've got Admiral Ozzel, who is an obvious choice for throw him away. We don't need him. Free rerolls for 1 turn. We also, if Palpatine isn't doing much work for us, depending on how this goes, then we can choke out Palpatine. We can also choke out Jerjerrod if it's late enough in the turn, and of course the damage control officer if our opponent is not running any special crits. Again, you're going to have, depending on the matchup, you're going to have plenty of options. You're going to get lots of rerolls out of this. It's basically you're getting a whole Commander Vader ability, for 4 points. It's wonderful. Now this is where adding ships stops, and this is where I step out of my comfort zone, because normally I'd like to have at least 1 more ship in here, a Demolisher, or maybe a Victory with Harrow, kind of backing up the sides, kind of protecting the flank as somebody tries to come around me. But in this case, I'm going to go with Squadrons. And this is definitely an interesting bit. We are going to also add Commsnet, to the Gazanti. I'm going to add Commsnet to feed a few extra tokens to the SSD, maybe some engineering tokens for like the first couple of shots before he starts doing engineering on his own. Or in case we do have to eat Jerjerrod or something like that, we can maybe toss it a nav. I don't think we'll need to toss it a nav, because it's not going to. We're going to have to use a nav command if we want it to turn, if we have to do that. So, in case we need to give it any other tokens, heck, we might even give it a squadron token. It's entirely possible, because we're going to add some squadrons. Now, one of the things I want to do is I want to add rogues. So I'm going to come up to Rogue under here and look at a lot of different options. There's a ton of options on what you can do. Couple of reasons I want to add squadrons here. I want my SSD to be a little bit later in the deployment. I already have Ozzel, which gives me some kind of extra deployment. I get, I get to do a nice little Ozzel Jerjerrod turn early on at the beginning of the first turn. It's a nice little way to kind of say, yeah, you deployed there, but you didn't know which way I was going to turn, and that's a big turn, almost like a last deployment, which is a nice thing. But I'd like to prolong that a little bit instead of just having 2 ships. So this is going to let me stall for a couple of activations. It's not going to help me terribly against a very squadron-heavy build, however. So I am going to put some fire sprays. Fire sprays are a fantastic, well-rounded rogue that can do a lot of damage against ships. I'm going to put 2 fire sprays in there. They're bomber, they're rogue, they don't have heavy. They are going to help against anything. They can help against squadrons. They can definitely help against ships. They can protect your flank against a ship that's trying to come around. I'm going to put 2 VT-49 Decimators, my favorite squadron of all time. It's insane. Well, I mean, I love the B-Wings also, but VT-49s are insane. They're small ships, basically. I'm going to run 2 of those. A lot of times I love to run like 5 or 6 of these things, and they're really, really incredible when you do that. But they do have heavy. They're rogue. They have 8 hull. They're rolling 3 dice against any target, which is real, real nice. But it's also kind of a risk, right? So having the fire sprays in there gives me a little more flexibility. I can spread out, go different ways. I can actually tie down enemy squadrons if I need to. And I'm going to try to amplify the decimators a little bit more by putting one of my favorite little combos in there, and that's Valen Rudor. Valen Rudor, excellent, excellent guy. He says, while an enemy squadron is engaged with you, with another squadron, rather, it cannot attack you. And the key here is you drop a couple, if you do go up against some nasty squadrons, you drop a decimator on them, and then you fly Valen Rudor in. Also, now all of a sudden, doesn't matter if they have grit, or the fact that the VT-49 has heavy, they're engaged with Valen Rudor and a VT-49 decimator, which means they have to attack the VT-49 decimator if they wish to attack. And he's got plenty of hull, and he's also got counter. He's going to shoot back. And then Valen Rudor gets to shoot at them, and they can't even counter Valen Rudor. And it's a whole lot of black dice against ships, because the VT-49s are also running black dice, which is a beautiful thing. And we have enough room for one more. And in here, I'm going to put Volt Scaris, who is another scatter ace. In case Valen Rudor does die, I want another scatter ace that I can throw in there that you might be discouraged to attack. And Volt Scaris also sort of does this in a different way. They can attack him, but he is a scatter ace, and he has counter 4, so he's going to roll a whole lot of dice back at you. I think that's a fun way to do this. Now, this comes out to 399 points. It is It's definitely a risk. It's a gamble. But I feel like we're a little bit well-rounded while still taking some major risks. We can easily be destroyed. We certainly might lose, but we might surprise people. If we go up against a Squadron light list, our fire sprays and VT-49s can do a whole lot of work. And the SSD can still get a lot done. We don't have a whole lot of damage reliability and damage tech on this particular ship. However, Darth Vader is going to give us a lot of rerolls, and we just have a lot of dice natively. We've got some protection with Palpatine, and this is Palpatine. Like I said, we were going to talk about why he's on there. If they do shoot, now all of a sudden when my squadrons activate at the end of the turn, they're going to have a better selection of targets. Oh, this guy's his redirects are all gone. Let's go after him. Let's go for that weak side. He's not going to want to, completely blow his redirect, is he? And that's a great, it gives us some better options there. And so that's a fun one. That's the idea with Palpatine. We might have better ways to make those bombers work a little bit better. Those fire sprays with 2 blue dice with bomber, it's pretty nice, especially once the shields are down. Maybe we can make that happen. We might be able to do it. That is the build. I want to hear some of your thoughts on the Eclipse. This is a build that's not saying, oh yes, totally, the Eclipse is absolutely going to trigger. It's a nice to have. Really what it is a list that doesn't even need the Eclipse title at all. It would probably perform about the same with or without it. But for thematic reasons, me wanting to run the Eclipse, this is a list that allows it to go in there. And it doesn't require me do anything special. And if it happens to work, then awesome. Awesome. And the only thing that might make it work is especially if I go up against somebody where I can really threaten some fast-moving ships that are coming in, I might be able to say, okay, you're going to fly around me. Well, I'm going to put my fire sprays and my decimators over there. Fly into them if you want to. And maybe I can encourage you to either fly completely away from the battle or run the risk of potentially bumping the Eclipse. That is the idea, is hopefully I can place squadrons in a way that scare you into either running away or bumping into me and making a mistake. Because if I can make you make a mistake, that's a great thing. And if not, it's only 3 points. It's not the end of the world. It's a great way to try something new. So let me know your thoughts on the Eclipse. What did you think of this list? And I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this whole channel possible. I'll talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all. And always wash your socks.